right now, millions of people are basically screaming online that the government is secretly trying to destroy their car engines.
Yeah, it's a massive panic.
It really is. Like,
Yep.
if you open up Instagram or YouTube today, you are practically guaranteed to see someone standing next to an open car hood looking just absolutely furious.
Oh, yeah, the outrage videos.
Exactly. They are, pointing at the engine, shouting into the camera, and claiming that this new nationwide fuel policy is like a massive coordinated scam designed to ruin your vehicle.
Right.
People are genuinely panicking, and there are calls for mass protests. It is a full-blown digital storm. But the weirdest
The
part,
weirdest part is the fuel itself.
right, the fuel they're so terrified of is the exact same fuel that Americans, Brazilians, and Canadians have been happily putting in their cars for years without, a single massive apocalyptic explosion.
Yeah, it is a truly fascinating disconnect. I mean,
Yeah.
we are seeing these outrage videos rack up millions of views,
Mhm.
and the panic spreads so incredibly fast because it taps into something deeply personal.
Oh, absolutely. Cars are expensive.
Exactly. We rely on our cars for our daily commutes, and vehicles are often like the second biggest purchase someone makes in their entire life. So when someone tells you your wallet is under attack, you react.
Right, fight or flight kicks in.
Exactly. But when we actually step back, ignore the shouting, and look at the hard data from our sources on this policy, that viral narrative completely falls apart.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the policy causing all this outrage is called E20, which is India's ethanol blending initiative. And our mission today for this deep dive is to basically cut through that viral emotional noise and look purely at the facts.
Yeah, because there is a glaring contradiction right out of the gate here.
Right. If E20 was inherently an engine-destroying scam, like if the fundamental chemistry of it was just a plot to ruin cars, those massive automotive cultures in the US and Brazil would have just collapsed decades ago.
Precisely. You do not see Americans abandoning their cars on the side of the interstate because of ethanol.
Yeah, exactly. So to understand why people in India are suddenly so terrified, we need to define what E20 actually is. What are we actually talking about here?
Well, the definition is remarkably simple, despite the conspiracy theories making it sound like some corrosive, mysterious chemical cocktail.
Okay, like battery acid or something.
Yeah, E20 simply stands for 20% ethanol mixed with 80% standard petrol. That is literally all it is.
Huh. Just a 2080 mix.
Yeah, it is a basic blending process that has been utilized globally to, stretch fuel supplies and lower emissions.
Okay, so it's just a mix. But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
Why bother going through the massive logistical headache of changing the entire domestic fuel supply? Like, we have established shipping routes, we have the massive ports to bring in crude oil.
So,
The 100% petrol status quo is kind of working, right? At least from a driver's perspective. Why overhaul everything?
it comes down to a fundamental vulnerability that most drivers never see. I mean, India is one of the world's largest importers
No.
of crude oil.
Right, we buy a ton of it.
A staggering amount.
Yeah.
Every single year, the country sends this astronomical amount of money, lakhs of crores of rupees overseas, to buy oil from foreign nations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That is a river of domestic wealth flowing straight out of the Indian economy and directly into the pockets of global oil producers.
I've always thought of it like it's like renting a house where the landlord constantly spikes the rent based on neighborhood drama.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Whenever a conflict breaks out in the Middle East or whenever these oil-producing cartels just decide they want to artificially cut their supply to drive up the price, Indian fuel prices skyrocket.
Yep, the consumer takes the hit.
Exactly. The consumer at the local petrol pump pays the price for global instability.
And that is the exact vulnerability E20 is trying to solve.
Yep.
The primary driver behind overhauling the fuel system is energy security.
Energy security, okay.
Because ethanol, unlike crude oil, can be produced domestically. By replacing 20% of imported petrol with homegrown ethanol, you immediately create a massive buffer.
So you're insulating the economy.
Exactly. You're insulating the nation's economy and, the everyday driver against those artificial supply cuts and global conflicts.
Which honestly brings up a really funny contradiction we found in the source material.
Oh, the hypocrisy of the outrage.
Yes. The very same people who are online complaining about India's dependency on foreign oil, the ones asking why fuel is so expensive when global markets shift.
Right. The ones demanding absolute self-reliance.
Exactly. The ones demanding Atmanirbhar, or self-reliance are the exact same people protesting the E20 policy.
That's wild.
They demand total energy independence, but the second a policy is implemented to actually reduce oil imports, they scream that it's a scam. Like, you can't demand self-reliance while fiercely protecting your dependence on imported fossil fuels.
No, you really can't. The math simply does not support that mindset. And shifting that 10% of fuel volume to domestic production does a lot more than just cut out foreign oil producers.
Oh, what else does it do?
It fundamentally rewrites who gets paid inside the country. E20 is essentially creating a massive, guaranteed new market for the Indian agricultural sector.
Oh, right, because ethanol is produced using crops.
Exactly.
Primarily sugarcane in India, right? So we are talking about putting money directly into the local economy.
Yes.
But wait, let me push back again. If sugarcane farmers and local sugar mills are suddenly the ones supplying our fuel, aren't we just trading one rich guy, a foreign oil baron, for another rich guy, like a massive corporate mill owner?
Well,
How does this actually help the broader economy?
it helps because of the velocity of money. When you buy foreign oil, that currency leaves the Indian ecosystem forever.
Gone.
Gone. But when you buy domestically produced ethanol, that money circulates.
I see.
The farmer gets paid, they buy local goods, the mill workers get paid, they spend in their communities.
Right, the multiplier effect.
Exactly. Furthermore, India has historically struggled with a massive surplus sugar problem. Producing too much sugar drops the market price, which, financially ruins farmers and leaves mills bankrupt.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so ethanol blending takes that exact surplus problem and turns it into a highly productive, profitable solution.
So instead of a massive import bill draining the national reserves, the wealth basically stays home.
It does. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we can quantify that. Every drop of foreign oil that India does not have to import translates directly into foreign exchange savings.
Foreign exchange savings.
Keeping those U.S. dollars in the National Reserve strengthens the overall economic standing of the country on the global stage.
Right. And let's ground that concept for you listening, because foreign exchange savings sounds incredibly dry and abstract.
Does sound like a textbook, yeah.
Think about it this way. The billions of dollars saved on the crude oil import bill is the exact pool of money that gets redirected into funding national infrastructure. It is the money that paves the new expressways you drive on, expands the metro networks, funds public healthcare initiatives, and drives national development.
Yeah, that's exactly where those funds can go.
Every time you fill up with an E20 blend, a fraction of what used to go to an overseas oil rig is effectively paying for local infrastructure.
It is a massive structural reallocation of national wealth. The economic and strategic logic behind the shift is incredibly robust.
It really is. But, and here's where things get really crucial for you, the driver, none of that brilliant macroeconomic strategy matters if you are, stranded on the side of that newly paved expressway because your car engine just died.
Very true.
The national budget is completely irrelevant when your personal vehicle starts making a horrible grinding noise.
Nobody cares about foreign exchange when their car is broken.
Exactly. We have to tackle these viral engine claims head on. Let's get into the mechanics. Does E20 destroy engines?
Okay, the short factual answer is no. E20 does not destroy all engines. The narrative that this is a blanket scam to ruin every car on the road is entirely false. However,
There's a however.
there is a very real technical nuance here that the viral videos are distorting. Not every single older car on the road is perfectly compatible with an E20 blend.
Okay, so there is some truth to the compatibility issue. I saw someone online compare it to, pouring petrol into a diesel car, ruining the engine instantly, and then blaming the government.
I've seen that one too.
But that doesn't sound quite right to me based on our sources. Because pouring petrol into a diesel engine is an immediate catastrophic failure. What we are talking about with E20 and older cars sounds much slower.
Your instinct is spot on. The diesel analogy is totally flawed because it implies an immediate explosion.
Right, instant death for the engine.
Exactly. A much better way to think about putting E20 into an older, incompatible car is like running high-voltage electricity through old, thin wiring.
Oh, that makes sense.
The electricity itself isn't bad, but the old infrastructure simply wasn't built to handle the heat. Eventually, over a long period, those wires will melt.
Okay, break that down for me. Why does ethanol act like high-voltage electricity in an older engine? What is the actual chemistry happening under the hood?
It basically comes down to two properties of ethanol. First, ethanol is a solvent.
A solvent, meaning it dissolves things.
Yes. Over time, it can dry out and degrade the older types of rubber fuel lines, plastic seals, and gaskets that were standard in cars built, 10 or 15 years ago.
Yikes. Okay, and the second property,
Second, ethanol is hygroscopic.
hygroscopic. Wait, meaning it absorbs water.
You got it. Ethanol actively pulls moisture out of the air. In an older fuel system, that trapped moisture can lead to rust and corrosion inside the metal components of the engine.
So if you use E20 in, say, a car from 2010, the engine won't explode tomorrow.
Definitely not.
But over a few years, you might see degraded seals, fuel leaks, or like rusted fuel injectors.
Exactly. That's the real risk.
Okay, so the people online aren't entirely crazy. Their older cars really could face damage over time.
Right. The damage is a possibility.
But the massive leap they make is blaming the fuel policy itself as a scam, rather than recognizing it as an issue of hardware compatibility.
Exactly.
But wait, if the old rubber and metal can't handle it, how are new cars surviving this? Are they just magically immune?
Not magic, just better engineering. Because the automotive industry saw this policy coming years in advance. They completely changed the hardware.
Really? Just across the board?
Pretty much. If you look at vehicles manufactured after 2023, the engineering is fundamentally different. Manufacturers swapped out the old rubber hoses for modern synthetic materials like Teflon that simply don't degrade when exposed to solvents.
Ah, Teflon.
Yeah. And they started using treated metals and specialized coatings inside the fuel systems that are completely immune to the moisture ethanol attracts.
Oh, that is super interesting. Actually, the sources gave us a massive list of E20 compatible cars, and reading through it, a very clear pattern emerges. If you bought a major brand after 2023, you are almost certainly covered because the entire industry shifted their manufacturing standards at the same time.
Yes, the 2023 cutoff is key.
Yeah. For cars, it's like newer Maruti Suzuki models, Tata's new variants of the Nexon, the Punch, Tiago, and Ultras,
Right.
Hyundai's Exter, Venue, i20, and Creta, Mahindra's new production batches of the XUV 700, Scorpio N, and the Thar. Oh, and Honda's Elevate and their new city variants.
It's a huge portion of the market, and the same goes for the two-wheeler market, by the way.
Oh, bikes too.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Newer models like the TVS Raider and Apache, the Bajaj Pulsar, Hero Splendor X-Tech, and Honda Shine and SB125, all built with these updated solvent-resistant materials.
So the manufacturers just adapted the infrastructure to handle the new fuel.
Exactly. They solved the hardware problem before the fuel even rolled out.
Which means if you are listening to this right now and you are feeling a knot in your stomach because of some guy yelling on YouTube, here is your actionable advice. Stop letting social media algorithms dictate your stress levels.
Good advice for life, really.
Definitely. The truth about your specific vehicle's compatibility isn't some government secret. You can literally just open your owner's manual. Or better yet, just walk out to your car right now and pop open the fuel lid.
Yep. Look for the sticker inside. You are looking for specific standardized phrases, E20 compatible, E20 fuel ready, or ethanol compatible.
Just those phrases.
Just those.
Yeah.
If your manual or your fuel lid has that designation, your engine is perfectly safe. The modern materials are doing exactly what they were engineered to do.
Okay, but what if someone has an older car, say a 2015 model? What do? Are they just completely out of luck?
No, not at all. They just need to stick to the standard E10 fuel, which is a 10% blend that older cars can generally handle without issue, or regular unblended petrol where it's still available.
Okay, so there are options.
Yes, but this raises an important question, right? The narrative we're being fed online is a panic-inducing blanket statement. E20 ruins cars.
Right.
But the real question every driver should ask is highly specific. Is my specific vehicle built with the materials to handle E20?
Oh, that's a great reframe. One is an emotional panic, and the other is a practical, solvable maintenance question.
Exactly.
You know, once we clear away all the fake panic over the mechanics of it, we can actually look at how this massive rollout is functioning in the real world. Because India isn't just talking about doing this someday. The policy is fully in motion right now.
Oh, it's very much happening. And the implementation data is actually quite staggering.
How so?
Well, massive national infrastructure shifts usually face endless delays, right? But India actually achieved its 20% ethanol blending target ahead of schedule.
Way ahead of schedule.
Yeah. From a sheer logistical and distribution standpoint, getting the fuel to the pumps and into the vehicles has been an objective success.
Hitting a nationwide fuel target ahead of schedule is practically unheard of.
It really is.
So what does this all mean? It means the policy is real, the supply chains are functioning, the engines of newer cars are handling it perfectly, and the macroeconomic benefits of domestic production are, like, actively accumulating.
All of that is demonstrably true. However, because we believe in rigorous critical thinking here, it is vital to state that E20 is not a flawless, magical utopia.
Right. Nothing is perfect.
Exactly. No energy policy is without friction. There are absolutely genuine, complex debates that scientists, economists, and policymakers should be having right now regarding this massive shift to ethanol.
Right. If you want to critique the government policy, there are very real avenues for that, rather than inventing fake engine scams on Instagram.
Yes, precisely.
I know one of the biggest concerns in the sources was actually the agricultural side of things.
Yeah, the genuine concern centers around water usage. Sugarcane, which is the primary source of Indian ethanol, is an incredibly water-intensive crop.
Thirsty plants.
Very thirsty. It takes thousands of liters of water to produce a single kilogram of sugar, or its equivalent in ethanol.
Wait, so if we are drastically increasing the demand for sugarcane to feed our cars, aren't we incentivizing farmers to plant more of it?
Yes, we are.
Doesn't that risk severely depleting the groundwater tables in major agricultural states like Maharashtra or Uttar Pradesh?
That is the exact debate we should be having.
Huh.
Are we simply trading a geopolitical oil dependency problem for a domestic groundwater depletion problem?
Oh, wow. That's a huge trade-off.
It is. If the water tables drop too low, it threatens overall agricultural stability. Furthermore, there is the classic food versus fuel debate.
Oh, right.
If farmers are utilizing their best, most fertile land to grow crops strictly for ethanol production because it pays better, what happens to the land dedicated to growing essential food crops?
That is a massive systemic issue. It is a balancing act between energy security and food and water security.
Exactly. We need to be debating crop rotation, water management, and whether we should be aggressively diversifying the biological sources for ethanol, like using agricultural waste instead of prime sugarcane.
That is where the intellectual focus, the public discourse, and the media scrutiny should be directed. We need to be examining the long-term environmental sustainability of scaling up this specific type of agriculture.
Yes. We should be arguing about water tables and sustainable farming practices, not whether the government is sneaking out at night to dissolve our spark plugs.
Right. It is entirely about shifting the conversation from a baseless conspiracy to a productive, factual critique.
And when you elevate the quality of the questions you ask, you elevate the entire public conversation.
I love that. So, to bring this all together for you listening, we started this deep dive surrounded by viral outrage and digital panic over ruined cars.
We did.
And then we looked at the global precedents, recognizing that the United States and Brazil have been utilizing ethanol successfully for decades.
Well, the sky falling.
Exactly. We unpacked the massive strategic benefits for India, securing energy independence from volatile global markets, drastically reducing a crippling import bill, and creating a lucrative new ecosystem that keeps wealth circulating within the local economy.
We also decoded the specific mechanics of your vehicle, explaining how the solvent properties of ethanol affect older rubber and plastic, while proving that the modern automotive industry has already shifted to E20 compatible materials.
Right. So the ultimate takeaway is that you have to choose facts over narratives, understand the chemistry of your specific car, check your owner's manual, and recognize the immense macroeconomic shift happening at the pumps.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a broader thought to mull over on your own.
Sure. What's that?
We are currently living through the very early stages of a massive global transition away from fossil fuels. It is arguably the defining infrastructural shift of our era.
Definitely.
But think about the friction we just unpacked today. If merely blending 20% of a plant-based alternative into our existing, familiar petrol supply causes this much societal panic, this much resistance, and this much viral misinformation.
Oh, man.
Right? How are we collectively going to handle the psychological leap to 100% alternative energies in the future?
That is a staggering thing to consider. It implies that the biggest barrier to a green energy future might not be the engineering, the supply chains, or the technology itself.
No.
The absolute biggest bottleneck might just be human psychology and our deep-seated resistance to changing the status quo.
The alternative technologies are arriving faster than ever. The question is, are we mentally prepared to adopt them without tearing each other apart online?
That is a heavy one to chew on. Next time you see someone screaming next to an open car hood on your social feed, you'll know exactly what is actually going on under the hood and the massive global economics playing out behind the scenes. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep checking your sources, check your fuel lids, and most importantly, keep questioning the narratives you see online. Catch you next time.